Hi friends, welcome to the St. Anne Parish podcast, where we seek to bring people to Jesus, form disciples, and send them to transform the world. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Tim, shut the door. Hurry, shut the door.
I know. Did anyone see you as they walked in?
No, they didn't. But
How did you
turn that on okay?
I did turn. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. How did you get in?
I just walked right in.
I did too. Looks like we just missed each other.
Hopefully nobody knows we're in here. Otherwise, we're going to get kicked out.
Well, I say we probably got 15 minutes before someone finds us.
Okay. Well, guys, this is Brian McAdams and my good friend Tim Thomas. And you heard us right. We did sneak into the deep recesses of the St. Anne podcast studio because we wanted to come here and talk to you about the Men's Summit. Isn't that right, Tim?
Absolutely. Well, happy Friday to you, Brian.
Happy Friday to you.
How was your day?
It was good. It was a long week. They always are.
Well, I really asked you about today so I could tell you about mine.
Okay.
No, I'm glad you had a great day. So ask me what I did today.
What'd you do today?
Today, I got to go watch a movie with my kids.
Oh, really? What movie?
So we watched Paw Patrol.
Oh, the new one.
The new one,
Okay.
The Mighty Pup. So it was really cool because, as you know, I have the week off. I'm starting a new job next week. And this has been the highlight of the week because
The movie.
okay. Or actually going to the movie. The movie, I think I probably paid attention to 20% of it, but we surprised the kids. We picked them up. They had a half day. And my wife said, hey, I'm going to take you somewhere. And straight to the movie theater. I was there, and the look on their face was amazing. I think I was probably more excited than my kids.
Now, will they sit through a whole movie?
Yeah, my son will. My daughter was getting distracted. It was actually a 2-hour movie. I thought it was pretty long for a kid's movie, right? Not 2 hours?
Yeah, that's long. Was it good?
It was good.
Have you ever watched the TV show?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I watch it with my son, or used to. He's 8, so he's kind of gotten out of that phase yet. But it was great. So just wanted to share that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
Well, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself? I know these are two voices that kind of the routine listeners of the podcast probably don't ever hear. If you just want to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. My name is Tim Thomas. As Brian said, I have been a St. Anne parishioner since 2013. I'm a convert, and my journey to the Catholic Church has been awesome and exciting. I am married. I have 3 kids, 8-year-old, 5-year-old, and a 14-month. Actually, she's 16. I don't know why I keep saying 14. That's so
You lose track.
I lose. Yeah, that's me. I live in Shady Shores, close to Corinth. I used to live in Capel. That's pretty much me.
Thanks for sharing. I'm Brian McAdams. My wife and I have been parishioners here since 2013. We have 3 kids, 10, 8, and 6. Our 8-year-old, our son, is going through Sacramento Prep right now. He is in 2nd grade, and that is the age that I was. I was in 2nd grade when I actually started coming to St. Anne's. My family moved to Capel back in the early 90s, and we started coming to St. Anne's. Before the big, beautiful church that we all know and love even was here. We were saying Mass in the assembly room. And yeah, this is my home. I received all my sacraments here, except for baptism. And then I went off to college, got a job in Dallas, met my wife. We got married at Holy Trinity, and then down in Oak Lawn, or off of Oak Lawn. And when we found out we were pregnant with our first child, we moved back to Capel, and all my kids have been baptized here. This is our home. So I care very deeply about this church. I love this place. It's our home. And so, I was thrilled and honored to be asked to kind of help shape and lead this year's Men's Summit along with you. I know that you were part of the team last year, and I had the honor to go to that event last year as just a normal attendee, and was blown away by the effort and everything that you guys were able to pull off. And I know that 250 plus guys that were there, felt the same way. And so it's real exciting to be on this end of it and seeing all the planning, and just cannot wait for October 20th.
What are you looking forward to the most from your experience at the Men's Summit?
Well, I can tell you that, last year I did not know what to expect. I don't even remember seeing or reading about it. Maybe I zoned out. The only reason I know about it is I was at a friend's house. I don't know why, but it came up in casual conversation. And so I, signed on to the parish website and I found it. I happened to know another guy that was going, and ultimately made the decision to go. Knowing a couple guys going certainly helped. I was pleasantly surprised at kind of just even what happened on the first night, and we can get into kind of what people can expect that first night. It's really unlike anything that you'll probably experience. It's not like the retreats from, back in your high school days, or really any of the other events offered to adults. It's really unique in a lot of ways. But that first night, we through a series of events, we were in small groups.
Right.
And I don't even think that was planned.
It wasn't.
We were in a small group, and the collection of us was random. Nobody we just sort of turned our chairs inward into a circle around the guys that we were sitting with. And there was one guy in particular that said something that made me kind of realize that he might know somebody that I went to high school with. And he and I just started talking, and sure enough, we had that, same connection. Yeah. And it was just this random connection. And, we found out that we had a lot in common. We just kind of became friendly that weekend. And about a couple weeks later, I think it was kind of Halloween, and I was taking my kids around the neighborhood trick-or-treating, and he was out walking his dog. Yeah. And sure enough, he lived like a couple houses down from me. Yeah. And it was just this weird kind of, series of events. And he and I became, really good friends. And now, believe it or not, we are in a small group together.
That is probably one of the craziest things I've heard. It's not crazy, but because that's just a small example of what could possibly happen, because a lot of us we're probably live in the same neighborhoods and don't know that we go to the same parish. One thing that I wanted to point out as you were talking, it just hit me as the summit was getting closer, and I have the same feeling now, but last year, it felt very much like I was like say you plan a hangout with some guys, right? Watch a ball game or maybe go to a game. It was that sort of same feeling, right? It might sound corny saying that, but I was so looking forward to just hanging out. Yeah. And Friday night was definitely, it was a hangout.
Yes, it was.
What
by design?
By design,
right?
100%. What surprised you about Friday night?
How casual it was.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you think, you think about the courtyard at church, and you think about coming out after Mass, and it's a setting in your mind. You show up there on a Friday night, and there's, solo stoves with fire, lit up with fire, and there's barbecue being served, and there's a table that's kind of a makeshift bar serving you kind of whatever you want, beer, bourbon, whiskey, tequila. There's cigars, come up and take one, and just kind of walking around talking. I mean, it really is kind of a big hangout. And I'll say, the guys that are a little apprehensive about going because they may or may not know everybody or anybody, I will tell you, being on the inside kind of planning it, there is an extreme amount of effort being put into welcoming those kind of guys. In fact, it's designed for those kind of guys. We want guys that don't really know anybody to show up. We've created a welcoming platform that I think is going to be a really neat invitation for them.
Yeah, I know if I walked into, and I think both of us are folks that could walk into a crowd and just make friends.
Sure.
But there is this nervousness, apprehension that you have when you walk into a crowd and you don't know a lot of people.
Right.
Right. But we've definitely talked about making the atmosphere really welcoming and casual.
Right.
To where maybe folks might be a little surprised. I think so. Yeah, we're doing the same thing this year.
Yeah.
For folks that are listening, right? Want to create an environment where, as men, you come together and have that same feeling of just hanging out.
Well, I read something interesting the other day, and I think you may have read the same thing, but guys, they bond over sort of a shared activity.
100%.
Whether it's kind of going out to golf or going to the game together, getting together for a poker night, guys have to do something together to kind of get friendly and bond. And so our shared activity is, you could say, smoking cigars or, enjoying barbecue or sitting around a fireside chat. So, very much looking forward to that. In fact, what's funny is, we handed out flyers for the last couple weekends, and some of the guys will take those flyers, and you can kind of just tell, like, they're really not sure. They're being polite. Other guys will kind of pause for a second and long enough to kind of let you get 2 words out about it.
Exactly.
And I found that this is all I want to tell them, hey, we're having barbecue and beer in the courtyard. Nice. And as soon as I say that, in the courtyard, they pause and they give a double take. They kind of look back like I'm crazy,
right?
And their wife or their girlfriend or whoever's with them kind of looks at them and gives them a nudge like, oh, you got him,
and there's nothing untrue about it.
No,
right?
It's not.
It is talking about the food, which, I love food. I know you do too, but the food was phenomenal.
It was.
If anyone listening has been to Alpha or any of the other ministries, there's a gentleman named John Bueno. He is the caterer, and he made phenomenal food. It was good food. And it's not, I would say it's not food that you get when you go to church. You know, that you have a certain expectation.
Right.
But this was high quality food. We had barbecue, and Saturday we had different kinds of food like Italian. And we have a good menu this year. Same like last year. There's going to be breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then unlimited snacks and coffee in between. But I know we have a lot to talk about.
Well, one distinction that I do want to make is this is not overnight.
Correct.
I have gotten that question a lot in the last couple of weeks about this event. Is it overnight? Let me just set the record straight. It's not.
It's not overnight.
Right.
Although, you know, it gave me an idea. We should do like a camp out in the parking lot type of event. But this is not it. This is
maybe later.
You get to go home and you got to come back fresh,
right,
bright and early on Saturday. And I know there's folks that, you know, you got commitments Saturday morning, right? It's football season now. How do you navigate this?
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
You know, what do you tell guys that, because I hate to admit it, last year when I was thinking about doing this and signing up, football was one of the first things I thought of. I'm going to miss football. So like, what do you tell guys who that's their sort of number one concern? And it doesn't have to be football, but it's, you know, these guys like you and I, we work hard during the week and you're tired and it's your weekend. So it can be hard to kind of give up a whole day.
So for Aggie fans out there,
oh, no,
there is no football that weekend. So you can breathe a sigh of relief. For the rest of us,
I
was actually talking to somebody who was a Sooner fan. So this weekend is pretty exciting. I'm a Longhorn fan. You and I went to the same college, and it's probably a little embarrassing that I don't support my alma mater. But Brian, to your point, it's almost like a religion, right? So asking guys to give up a football weekend, which I understand is going to be hard to come to a men's summit. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this, right? What do you look for as a guy? What do you look for to get out of a football weekend, right? There's things that if you really sort of peel the onion, there is the relaxation, the enjoyment of watching something competitive, being around other guys or friends, the food, probably have people over or going over somewhere, or maybe you're just watching the game by yourself, right? It's a sense of restoration almost in the weekend, or your version of it. Mm-hmm. And as I think about it, that's exactly what this Men's Summit weekend is all about. Being around other guys, being around your friends. There's food, there's alcohol, there's cigars on Friday night. And it's a place for restoration. Mm-hmm. And I know our theme is really centered around what the vision of our church is, but more on that in a little bit. But I really connected to this want in our heart as men to be able to connect, to be able to be restored. What are your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. I was going to share kind of a silly story when I was considering whether or not, I could give up a Saturday. Again, it sounds so silly. Yeah. And my team ended up, and I'm not going to say who my team is because I want to stay friendly with everybody, but my team lost that day. Yeah. And so that was kind of just a good reminder that I could have not gone to the men's summit because I wanted to stay home and watch my team play and not give up on the day, but I would have been given up on the men's summit just to stay home to watch my team lose. So I made the right decision. And yeah, I think you're right. Again, guys bond over shared activities and shared experiences. And one of the things that's really beautiful about Saturday is just the great talks, namely the testimonies that guys give. They get up there and I was blown away by, one in particular last year of, an older gentleman. And that's another, distinction that I want to make. This is not just kind of a young guys event. Yeah. It's really geared for anybody over 18. We want guys of all ages to come. And one gentleman in particular, got up and gave a told his story, and he was an empty nester and kind of just shared his experience of, his early marriage life and his early faith life. And it just was a good feeling to be in a room full of guys kind of going through more or less the same thing, because you can, you can feel like you're on an island when you're at home, especially if you're married and you have kids. You can relate to your wife, and your wife can be your best friend, and you guys can talk, but she's not a guy, and you can kind of feel sort of alone sometimes. And so it was really great to kind of be in a room full of guys that were being vulnerable and open and just kind of a good reminder that, you're not alone.
On that point, and there's a lot of angles that you can kind of talk about the weekend, but the one you reminded me of was, we're a big parish, a lot of programs, ministries, and a lot of stuff that men's do. Probably women do more than men do, but this was a great way to bring all the different men's ministries and folks that don't do ministries and all together, right? So we had folks from Knights, Men's Club, Chirp guys, folks who've never been to any of these, all together. And Friday night, I was in charge of food last year, and it was, you kind of stand back and look out at the crowd, and then you see multiple demographics, right? Typically I see older gentlemen at St. Anne's volunteering. There are younger guys as well that do it, but predominantly you see maybe an older crowd. But this was really cool to see young men, middle-aged men, older men, all interacting. And for me, it was, man, I'm around the men of St. Anne's, and it was a good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked a little bit about the speakers.
Yep.
What do you know about the speakers?
Well, so we have 2 keynote speakers coming in. We have a series of workshop speakers that we have, and then we have some St. Anne parishioners that are scheduled to get up and give some individual talks, just kind of sharing a little bit about their background, and they're going to be spread out over Friday and Saturday. Father Edwin will kind of have a consistent presence throughout, which is always great. Yeah, I think the content team that has been kind of hard at work on the outline and everything has done just an incredible job of pulling together some amazing personalities that are hopefully going to touch on a lot of different aspects of our theme, kind of the role that a man has in today's world, and really kind of just energize the group. And I think for the guys that went last year that were, I know from everybody that I talked to, and I know that there was a little survey that was done afterwards, everybody had, just amazing things to say. I would say to those guys that are that came last year that are registered or still thinking about coming again, you're going to be blown away by this year. And I would say to the guys that are considering it, or if you're a wife listening and have a husband who might be considering it and you kind of want to push them to go, just know that this is going to be something unlike anything that they've probably experienced. So.
And one of the main reasons why, I know you're probably the best person to speak about it, is the theme behind the Men's Summit.
Right.
Our theme is bound for good, but there's a great sort of story behind it, because for those listening, I'm going to say that Brian and Davis were the mastermind behind the theme and the marketing. So you represent it really well. So tell us your thoughts on it.
So real quick, I mean, again, you've probably seen that phrase around church in different places. We're using it to, talk about the summit. It is bound for good, and it truly underscores and emphasizes the vision at St. Anne. One of the things that we talked about early on was, why do an event if it doesn't support the vision? And it certainly does. I think having the event itself supports the vision, but just those words, bring people to Jesus, form disciples, and send them out to transform the world. It's really that last part, for me, where the rubber meets the road. Send them out to transform the world. That is scary. But what that communicates, at least to me, is it gives you a sense of direction. It tells you where you're supposed to be going. And so our theme, Bound for Good, does the same thing. And so in the same way that someone might say, I'm college bound, we're saying you're bound for good. You're bound for something hopeful. You're bound for something greater. Your job that we're calling you to do, to go out into the world, to be, bound for the world, to transform it for good, is really kind of what sort of on the surface, what our theme sort of represents. And so it's kind of a calling to, this is where you're supposed to go. But under the surface, it also kind of represents a promise. When you're bound to something, you have a commitment. to that thing. And so, again, regardless of where you are in your life as a man, whether you're married, whether you're a father, or whether you're a single guy, you have commitments.
Yep.
You have responsibilities. And so, we're going to talk about those responsibilities. And so for married guys, it's simply you're bound to your wife for good.
Yep.
When you get married, you make that promise. And for good certainly means forever. But what it really means is for the goodness of the two of you.
Yep.
You are bound to your children for good. Certainly forever, but really you're bound to your children for the goodness of their souls. And so those are kind of the aspects of the theme that we really want to expand and talk about and kind of remind guys. It's one of those things that we've worked really hard to kind of take that theme and make it affect, the keynotes, the workshops, to give the event a focus. One of the things that was so great about last year was we had amazing speakers. We had such great content, but it was hard to kind of keep it all straight. When you left the summit, I was overwhelmed with the positivity of it all. But 6 months later, I couldn't tell you what it really was about in terms of just the focus. I think if you were to ask 50 guys what the focus of the summit was, you'd get 50 really great answers.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we talked about this year was giving it a theme so that the chances that guys would be able to sort of in their brains connect a topic from a keynote to a workshop to a breakout session are maybe a little bit greater. And so that influence of that such, all that great content, sticks with them longer.
That's awesome. I get chills every time you kind of speak about it, because what it's speaking to is, as men, our hearts were made for adventure. Mm-hmm. And this missional challenge that we might normally shy away from, we need to step into it, right? As men of St. Anne's, as Catholic men.
Right.
And that is the call this weekend, right? Equipping
October 20th.
October. Not this weekend. Wow. You're right. Thanks for correcting me. And I want to point that out because our hearts were really made for it. Right. And we were equipped for it, because if things were easy and if we're almost, our brains are wired to I just don't want to be bothered. Right.
Yeah.
But our hearts were made to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Let me tell one quick story, and we probably need to wrap it up here before we get kicked out. Again, we snuck in here and just kind of turned it on. I've told this story to a couple people in the last couple of weeks, but to me, it was a wonderful reminder of that we're on to something, really, really special. And hopefully you agree. But I was scheduled to talk to the moms ministry a couple weeks ago, to plug the men's summit. And I was thinking about something to say. And I started to think about the vision of the church, and the Holy Spirit just started telling me, go look it up, go online and look it up. And why do I need to, I've got it memorized. I don't need to, but I had this internal, pull to go look it up. And so I went to, stannparish.org, and I went to the About Us page, and sure enough, it was right there. But right underneath the vision were a set of values. And I had totally forgotten that we had values. And that's probably that says something about, I'm just not a very good Catholic.
You made me go look at it, actually.
I had forgotten that we had values. And I think a lot of people probably forget that we have values, but we have 7 of them. And the one that's right in the middle on the webpage, staring me right in the face when I signed on, is a value called boundless mission. And I saw it and I thought, God, that sounds exactly like our theme. I touched on it just a few minutes ago. Our Bound for Good theme permeates the titles of our talks. It permeates just these different aspects of the weekend. And when I saw Boundless Mission, it sounds just like the title of one of our talks. And I thought, well, this is what, and so if you read it, in the context of our church and what that value means, that means that we are called to extraordinary invitation, that every single person wants to get to heaven, and we are called to invite family, friends, and neighbors to join us at the banquet table. That's I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what it says, but it was this. That to me, that was so beautiful. I was kind of in this place where I was about to go talk to the moms ministry and invite them to consider inviting their husbands on our behalf to the men's summit. And the Holy Spirit called me, and I was drawn right into Boundless Mission, which tells us to extend those extraordinary invitations. And I think you and I can both agree that guys especially need those extraordinary invitations. We need that extra push to go do something, especially something like this. And so, to all of those listening, I would just say that, if you're a guy and you're listening, and this has kind of been on your heart, or you've seen a couple bulletin ads about it, or you've seen it around, please consider, signing up and joining us. It's an event you won't forget. And if you're a wife or somebody that has a man in your life, please consider talking to them about this, because it really is designed for anybody and everybody.
So in wrapping up, other things that we need to remind folks of, there's adoration.
Right.
There is a panel discussion.
Confession.
So a lot of neat little things that men can be part of. Once again, October 20th, Friday, 6 to 10 p.m.
Right.
Here at the courtyard at St. Anne's. And then at the assembly room on Saturday, 21st, starting with Mass at 8.
Right.
That's it. Hope to see you guys there, right?
Yeah. We hope to have a huge crowd. Thank you all for listening.
Hey, before we end, you skimmed over it.
Oh.
But can we reveal your who you support in college?
No.
You can't do that?
No.
Okay,
Let's end on a high note. This was so nice.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's another one.
Brian, this is great doing this.
Thank you,
with
Tim.
Thanks for inviting me to do this.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys. God bless.
See ya.
The St. Anne vision is to bring people to Jesus, form disciples, and send them to transform the world. To learn more about St. Anne, go to stanneparish.org. God bless.